people talk about taking Social Security, I often hear the year 62, 67, or 70. But you know, you can take it at 62 and 9 months, 68 and 5 months, 69 and 4 months. You could take it at any time in between 62 and 70. It doesn't have to be a clean-cut year. I'm Sue from Aging Joyfully. I'm going to talk to you about Social Security once again. Steve is at work, still working. I'm a couple of years from even being eligible, but we like to review it early. Steve is well past 62, and that was never in our radar of even considering it. There was no way we were at all financially prepared to take it when he turned 62, and he didn't want to. Steve is very healthy. His brother just turned 80, and we are going to talk to him about what he feels. He retired at 63, but he had a pension. He has a pension. So his situation is totally different. If you don't have a pension like we don't have a pension, it may be a little bit more challenging to retire at a younger age. His other brother is 72 and doesn't have a pension. He is still working. So today I'm just going to talk about taking Social Security between 62 and 70. You don't have to say, hey, I'm going to take it at 62 or I'm going to take it at 67. Your full retirement age, I'm going to assume, is 67 for everyone today. There are still some people who are at 66 and 8 months or 66 and 10 months. I'm going to assume a full retirement age of 67. That is when you receive 100% of Social Security. Any month or years before is then reduced a percent, and I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to put my link to my other video where I did the fractions. I listed the fractions on the screen. You can do the calculations, or you go to this website, Social Security website, and it will tell you how much it is reduced from that 100%. If you delay taking it till 70, it is increased over 100%. There could be a number of reasons why you want to take it at, say, 62 and 6 months. You may have a child in college who's graduating and you're going to retire at that point, or you and your spouse want to retire together. I was talking to my daughter-in-law's mother one day, and I asked her when she was going to retire, and she said, well, my Social Security full retirement age is 67, so I'm going to retire at 67. I didn't explain to her that she can take it at 62 or any point in between 62 and 67, or she can delay it. She does have a pension, so she might be in a position where she would be able to retire at 62 or 63, and she could still delay Social Security. I know a lot of people are not aware of that fact. They may think that because their retirement age is 67, they need to retire at 67. They may not understand. The Social Security website is confusing. The calculations are very confusing. You have to read it and actually work with the numbers on paper. I think if you work it on paper and you receive that statement, the first thing you need to do is sign up on that website for My Social Security. You get a statement online. You can check it at any point. And I do like their verification. They do require that they send a code to you before they will give you access to that information. So we have gotten our statements for years. We used to get a paper statement in the mail every year. Because I worked in payroll years ago, I knew about this and I started requesting them. I would get them every year, and then once it went to online, we immediately signed up online, which is a much safer option. So you look at that and you see what your projected payments will be from 62 to 70. And of course, we all know within about 11 years or so, Social Security, the Social Security Trust Fund, is projected to not have 100% of payments. It is projected to have roughly 80% of payments unless some action is taken. Action can be taken and something will need to be done at some point. But right now, they're projecting that you will get a 20% reduction in your benefits in approximately 11 years or 2034. I'm considering taking my Social Security at 62, and Steve has been considering 70. But now I know if I do take it at 62, I will reduce my spousal payments. That is based on what Steve will get along with what I will get. While my Social Security is reduced 30%, the spousal payments will be reduced 35% by me taking it as early as 62. So I would only get 32.5% of Steve's Social Security if I take it at 62. By delaying my Social Security, I will get higher spousal benefits. So when doing an analysis, you can't just look at one person in the marriage. If it's a married couple, any legally married couple, you need to do an analysis of both payments, what you would get for spousal benefit. And even if you are single, but you're thinking about marrying somebody, you may want to look at that too. Because by doing the spousal benefits, your new spouse, once you've been married, I believe it was 1 year, but once you get married, your new spouse will be eligible for spousal benefits. So if you took it at 62, not only could it impact your first wife if you were married for 10 years and you have been divorced for 2 consecutive years, but your new spouse who is going to be eligible for spousal benefits. So that's another consideration. If you are a single guy and you're taking it based on you alone, if you have a prior spouse or a future spouse, you may want to consider delaying it. I know you may not care about your prior spouse, but if she's the mother of your children, you may feel some or your future spouse who can live a long lifespan. The Social Security website does have a lifespan calculator that you put in your information and it tells you how long you are projected to live. It is very, very basic, but I was projected to live 86 years and Steve was projected to live 84 years. But it didn't take into account what you do in your life. We don't drink, smoke, or eat junk food. We don't do dangerous things. With that in mind, we could live quite a bit longer. We could live into our 90s. So based on that, I had done a break-even point for Steve's Social Security, and it was 80. Now, if he were just thinking about himself, he may want to take his Social Security earlier, but he knows that it will impact what I will get once he's gone. And it is projected that I will be here 7 years after he is gone. So he knows that he doesn't want me to be in poverty and struggling. Of course, no amount is going to be huge, but that along with 401ks, hopefully, I won't be, as every woman's biggest fear is of becoming a bag lady. I see all these videos of elderly women living in their cars, and they're living in their cars full time, and they project this image that it's happy and fun, but I don't know how comfortable that can be. I mean, it might be okay for a few months, but I'm just thinking of with my poor circulation, not moving your legs and getting your blood going, that for me personally would be a huge risk and shorten my life expectancy. I don't know if these women, I think a lot of them admit that they have to do it. They do live on Social Security and they can't get housing, so they're living in their cars. Now, a van, it's a little bit more comfortable because you may be able to stand and move around, but the ones who live in their cars, I just really wonder if this is really, really a comfortable lifestyle for them. To me, it seems like you'd be pretty stressed out, and it seems like it would be challenging. And I'm not trying to offend anyone. I've thought about if I could do car camping, and that to me seems a little scary with not even knowing what a safe place to park. And I know a lot of people go out west on the government property where you can go for free or very, very cheap. But some people I see are just sweating like crazy. They're so hot, and just I don't know, how do you eat healthy foods and get your exercise and know that people aren't stealing your life possessions while you're out hiking or doing something. To me, it seems like it'd be a little stressful. So they're glorifying it because I believe it's just getting tougher and tougher. And a lot of young people don't realize that they may get to live to be in their 80s and 90s because maybe they don't see a lot of elderly people. I didn't have grandparents, so I never saw elderly people. We moved out to the suburbs when the suburbs were up and coming, and all young people, families moved out there, so a lot of older people stayed in the cities. We had one elderly neighbor who walked every day. He lived with his grown children who were in their 60s, and he was in his 80s, and he walked miles every day, but he was very lonely because he had no one his age or activities to do, but he did walk every day. But other than him, I didn't see any elderly people, so you may not think that I could be in my 80s and 90s. When we moved to Pennsylvania, we saw a lot of elderly people. I was like, this is where they're all hiding, in Pennsylvania. A lot of them have stayed in the Rust Belts because a lot of southern cities are where a lot of people are moving to. In the Rust Belts of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, they have a lot of elderly people who are not moving. When we lived in Buffalo, New York, again, we saw an elderly population. So if you're not exposed to that elderly population, you may not project that you are going to be elderly too. A lot of elderly are in assisted living or homes for retirement homes for over 55 communities. So you don't see them because they stay secluded. Like there's one in Florida that's huge. What is that? The Villages, and people just stay there. All the activities are there. So they don't go out into the general population. So you don't see those old people. Although in Florida as a whole, they have a tremendous elderly population. I'm just saying you may be buffered from some of the elderly people and not realize that one day you will be elderly too. You may think you're going to have a short lifespan, but even if you do take it at 62, I did do a video on, you can change your mind. You can suspend at full retirement age and have it grow if your circumstances change. So we like to have plan A and plan B in life. We've had a lot of surprises with the Great Recession, with the pandemic, a lot of things that have gone on. So our plan A right now is me taking it at 62. Plan B is maybe 64, maybe 64 and a half. We don't really know at this point. We're taking it day by day. We're going to wait and see as we get closer, see what happens. I mean, the stock market has been pretty favorable, but it always can go down. We have lost half of our retirement at 2 different points. We could always lose it again. What goes up goes down. What goes up must come down too. The stock market is not always going up. That's not possible for it to always go up. When people invested in Bernie Madoff, I was actually quite surprised because the basic rule of finance is what goes up must come down. How could you think it's always going to be up? It's not possible. It's not logical. I'm very logical, and I was blown away. If returns are so good, too good to be true, then they are. You've got to think, if they're too good to be true, there's something wrong with it. People tell you about investment opportunities and they're too good to be true. I mean, there's been times in our marriage, Steve said, we're going to be millionaires. When I said, yeah, I don't see it. Many, many times. And then the stock market crashed. Something happened and I'm like, there's our millions, right, Steve? So I say slow and steady wins the race. Thinking it through, having different sources of income, and our house is a big source of our retirement money. At some point we are going to get rid of the house and rent or maybe get a tiny home. We're going to be investigating that, because the longer we stay in our house, the better off we are, because we're not using our equity, and rents are just crazy right now, just crazy, unless you could get into a rent-controlled apartment. So I want you to know, Social Security isn't black and white. It's not 62, 67, or 70. You could take it any month in between and you will get slightly more. You will get a slight increase depending on how many months you can wait. I'm still going to be doing the video on lump sum. That'll be a future video, but check out our other videos. We have a lot on health. Keeping your health in check is really good. That will make your money go further. We don't eat out anymore. Well, we don't eat out except when traveling. So that not only has saved us money, but it's made us a lot healthier. And we don't drink anymore. That again has saved money, made us healthier. So I'm going to put some links to other videos in the description. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and share it with your friends. If you live in a retirement community, please share it with them. Or young people who are just projecting their lives and thinking ahead. Like I've always been thinking about retirement since 30. I've always looked out, and I always worried about not having pensions as being a deterrent to how we were going to be able to retire. I remember talking to Steve's brother, the one who's 80, and asking, how are we ever going to be able to retire without pensions? And he was just shocked, thinking, why is a 30-year-old thinking about retirement? Because my bosses got me on that wavelength. When I graduated from college at 21, my bosses talked to me about retirement, and I thought they were crazy at 21. By 30, I was starting to think about retirement, and our kids too look at their retirement and they wonder, because Social Security will definitely be different when they retire. Pensions could collapse, and anything could happen. They worry a lot about retirement and think about moving to different countries, which we have too investigated. I've looked into a lot. I've ruled it down to Ecuador and Portugal. It's the two countries that we would move to, because I believe they both were good English speaking. It's hard for me to learn another language. It's just hard for me to learn another language, not just the age thing, but it's always been hard. And I don't know, I thought they were the most friendly to expats. But being older, I'm nervous about moving. I'd like to stay in the country I lived in my entire life. So I'd like to make it work out here, and we have family here. So chances are we are going to stay here. Until I see you again, take it easy.